why I think most people get crypto wrong, and I've actually posted quite a bit about this. One of the things I think is not talked about enough is people hear of crypto in these waves when it's like popular or when it's catching attention. And so I feel like the average person sees crypto as like this trendy thing that pops up. They see someone making a lot of money. They see, someone get really rich, make millions of dollars off of like a meme coin, for instance, like Doge or Shiba or Floki. And it just gives them this connotation that it's not a serious place and it's just trendy and it's a scam or it's just a get rich quick place. And to be honest, it's none of those things. And while those things do kind of exist, I think they exist in every market. And I'll kind of explain my thought process on that more. But the main problem I think people have is they just don't look at crypto and Bitcoin from a lens of a long time frame, a long horizon, and zooming completely out and thinking to the future. And so they hear about it in these waves and they look at these short-term blips of crypto and they develop this opinion or this thesis, and the media will feed them this opinion and thesis that it's a non-serious place and there's not a future in it. Or even if there is a future in it, it's so volatile, right? I hear that word all the time, that it's so volatile. How can I do this? Well, if you just would zoom out, if you'll look at, and I had plans to screen record this, I just have having problems with my computer. If you look at Bitcoin on a yearly chart over the last 15 years since its inception, it has been pretty much up and to the right. And it's been volatile, yes, but not on a yearly chart, because we have weeks and months where there's volatility and days where there's volatility. But if you look on a yearly chart, it's been the best performing asset for the last 15 years. And anyone that was buying it has benefited. So it's hard for me to, when I hear volatile, I just think people look at it too short term. And there's so many cases of this in the history of like these new emerging assets that, yes, have maybe intraday and weekly, monthly volatility, but over a long time frame, that volatility, if anything, just ends up phasing out, becoming less volatile and more, performant gains, right? So Apple, it's in early days, was super volatile. There's, reports of it dropping like 60 to 70% in a day. I may be off on that, actually. I think it might have been 80% in a day. So someone can check me on that. But my point being is all new emerging assets or new technology or new industries and markets are going to have these volatile periods of speculation, and it just has to do with the marketplace. Once that mass adoption curve starts to happen and we start to get more people involved in it and more institutions involved, and there's less speculation and there starts to become more certainty in the future, that's when you see less volatility, and that's when you see more performant gains and more predictable gains. There's still going to be down periods, there's going to be like ups and downs, obviously, but like all markets and all stocks, all things are cyclical, and that's just the way they think they go. But you will see more predictable outcomes, if that makes sense. And to be frank, Bitcoin right now still operates on very predictable outcomes. It follows standard market behaviors and market structures and things that if you pay attention to, like, you can kind of see the sentiment come out in the charts, if that makes sense. But I'm not the most experienced or advanced trader. I've just picked up on a lot of things over the years from surrounding myself with people that know more than I do, and so it allows me to kind of pick apart what I see, market conditions and the price action of these assets. So I will say one of the edges I feel like I personally have, and where I try to lean into, is just understanding market sentiment. And I've actually posted some tweets that have highlighted things, predictions that have come true, and it wasn't off of necessarily my great charting or analysis. It was more like my understanding of sentiment and the market conditions and what plays out, and evaluating max pain scenarios and psychology of the markets and things like that. So like I said, I was going to screen record this and show you, but one of the things I'll try to get it, if I get the screen record post, cool, you can see it. But is back in, let me pull this up. And if you can see my screen, cool. If not, oh well. I posted this about 7 days before the Bitcoin halving. We had a big dump, right? And I posted from 2020 halving, we had 7 days before the halving, we had a big dump, and then there was a recovery, and then a bigger dump into the halving. And I posted this saying that, not saying we were going to see the exact same price action, but that we would see potentially a similar thing playing out. And the thesis I was trying to say, and I kind of added another tweet on here, was we would see lower prices from what we were seeing that day. I think we were at about 64 to 65 is what we had seen, and that was low at the time. And I think people weren't expecting us to go down to like 60K, which we've now since gone under 60K, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we got those targets. So the targets I kind of said was 61 to 62K with wicks below 60K. We ended up getting that actually. Let me pull up the chart. So here is that 7 days before the halving, and here is when the halving happens. And we ended up getting all the way down to, the low was 59,600. Wicks under 60K. It closed, all closes were above 60K, but we got wicks down to that level. We saw this little recovery after the halving. Oh, hey, maybe there's some good news. Like, boom, the halving happened. There's some positivity. And then we saw a further dump over the last week and a half. So this is something that actually was evident in this last halving too, is we saw this dump, we saw a little bit of recovery, and then proceeding more of a dump. And what actually happened, and I talked about this in the tweet, is the next 2 months we kind of chopped around and we had these recoveries and then bounced back. And I think if I was to look at the same price action now, I think we're going to have something a little different play out, but we're still going to have some chop. I actually predicted all of this happening, and not saying I know the future or anything. I just played out the scenario back in April 3rd, that the Bitcoin halving would come and we were going to correct and chop, and people are going to get shaken out. And so you can see this price action that happened, and I also said we're going to rock it, so don't get shaken out. You can see this price action that happens. Like, where's April 3rd? Oh, sorry, my computer's like in the way. Okay, April 3rd, we were at about 65K. We bounced all the way, we went all the way up to 72, and then we rocketed down to 60, headed into the halving, and we've been chopping around, literally, like I kind of talked about, because we've just been chopping around. The reason I bring this up is I think people aren't patient enough, and they're looking at too low of a time frame, and even a daily time frame is kind of too low. But if you zoom out and if you think of Bitcoin over the next year and the next 2 years, and you think of the price action that happened, and you can go back and look at the previous halvings, and it's never an immediate rocket. There's always kind of this lag or this waiting period, right? And it's kind of gets people bored in the market, and they lose money, and they try to, basically get too cute or too smart with it, and that ends up giving their money back to the market or to smarter players and to smarter money. One of those ways is playing with leverage. When you play with leverage and you get liquidated out, it just, that money is transferring over to the marketplaces and to these exchanges and to smarter money, right? So when I look at this scenario and I think, okay, what happens now? We've had the halving, we've been chopping around, we've kind of corrected down. This is kind of like this max pain scenario where a lot of people are like, oh, what happened? Like, why is it down? And this is like inexperienced market participants in my mind, or just emotional market participants. And, knowing that I can kind of understand this sentiment really well, I think from here we're going to see higher prices, just might not be in the short term. In the short term, we may see us push above 67, 68, maybe into the 70s. To be honest, I haven't really looked into the short term what I think we're going to do. I just know over the next year and 2 years, we're going to see higher prices, and it just may take some time. I actually wrote an entire thesis on this. So if you go to, I'll post the link to this article, but basically Bitcoin peering into the next decade. I published it on Medium. It's a member only story, but if you message me on Twitter, or if you can find me somehow to message me, I will get you a friends link if you want, and you don't have to pay Medium to view it. So you can read my thesis there on what I think Bitcoin's going to do price wise. I think, over the next year we'll see into the hundreds, potentially 200K. And I just think there needs to be more patience in the cycle, and just in Bitcoin in general. And I think looking at it on too short of a time frame is where you get in trouble. There's a lot more I can go into on like Solana and Ethereum and just different altcoins, like meme coins, and we can talk about like AI narratives. We can talk about NFTs and Bitcoin ordinals. There's a ton DeFi, decentralized finance protocols. We can get into all of that, and I'll probably be putting out more videos talking about those things. I just wanted to get my initial thoughts on crypto and mostly Bitcoin out there right now, and see what comes of this. I don't know if I necessarily want this to blow up and be the biggest YouTuber or anything crazy. Just if this helps me find more like-minded individuals that I can vibe with. I know in my future I have really big ideas that are going to unfold, and it's all about mastering things now that are just going to help me get there. So this is step one of that. And if you want to stick around for the journey, if you want to find me on Twitter, cool, and we'll connect. So I appreciate it, and I hope you got something of value out of this.